Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wilde, and hey, we're off adventuring into the spaces between. Because why not? I mean, it's a Thursday afternoon. Just checking. I wanted to make sure I was given the right time of day ish, for here. Because you never know. It is kind of that time of day, I suppose. Yeah. And, yeah, it's been busy. There's a lot of things going on in the world, right? Actually, there's just a lot of things going on, period. I mean, really, truly, there are a lot of things going on. I mean, you watch the news and you see a lot of things going on. You don't watch the news and you just hear about it because there's just a lot of things going on. I mean, holy moly. Um, I guess we're going around the moon again, which is kind of cool. Um, kind of curious. I got to look to see where we are now because apparently, yeah, they're doing the thing. And, if I look at, well, why would I? Okay, there's so many media feeds out there. Oh my stars! You can look almost anywhere to find the things to get the videos, right? So, if you're going to watch the video, right, about Artemis, wouldn't you go to NASA? Because NASA has some really decent videos, and all that. Um, I mean, wouldn't you do that? So yes, I'm just checking to see if there's anything new from the NASA website or NASA YouTube. But while it's updating, because yeah, why not? Um, I think it's cool that we're out there doing the thing, and I think it's a long time coming because we should have done it a long time ago. Honestly, we really, really should have done it a long time ago. We should have been out there doing the thing and going to the moon and experiencing the world in space. Because you know what? Being out in space is something that we really should have been doing more of as a sci-fi geek. Because yes, I do personally enjoy a lot of sci fantasy and such. Why aren't we out there? Why aren't we doing more of this stuff? There are so many things out in space already. I mean, if you stop and think about it, um, how many materials have been used to create the satellites, for instance, that are up in our the various layers of atmosphere, and of those items, how many of them are now defunct and just kind of sitting in whatever orbits they are, decaying orbits, because they're slowly decaying, of course, because they no longer work. And at some point, will just burn up into the atmosphere and crash back to Earth, right? How many of them contain rare earth materials? A lot of them, right? Like most of them contain rare earth materials of some sort. So why don't we have people up there like collecting them to recycle, repurpose, reuse? I mean, wouldn't that make sense? To me, that would make sense because yeah, that would make sense. Just saying. Um, I mean, rather than having it potentially burn up in the atmosphere or land in someone's backyard or go through their house or hit a car or whatever. Just saying. So I think that's one thing. That's one thing in the news. The United States and various other folks playing around in the Middle East, those different nations mucking around and doing things. Mixed feelings there. So many mixed feelings because world history in general is not taught to individuals that reside within a country without being filtered by the lens of that country's belief system. So, if I were to take a world history class, in other words, in, say, Russia, it would absolutely be from the Russians' perspective, which makes sense, right? Or if I were to take a world history class, it would be in Israel, it'd be from the Israeli perspective, or Iran from the Iranian perspective, or here in the US from the US perspective, etc. Right? So that all kind of makes a certain amount of sense, right? Unfortunately, what often happens is that we become very stagnant in those beliefs because we don't stop and look outside of those systems. We don't stop and examine the belief systems of those various monarchy, oligarchy, republic, democracy, whatever political system is in place to see if that is a correct type of history, right? Because history is written by the victor, or in some instances, it's written by just whomever's in power, right? And often it erases anything that might leave the other party looking better, or you looking bad in any light, because that's just the way of it, right? And that's just the way history has been throughout the millennia. So the other thing is that often when there is a nation or multiple nations involved in a situation, the folks that are in and around do not always understand the cultural differences or the religious differences of those in other nations, or regions, or cultures, or social dynamics. And what I mean by that is that when we hear, and I can't even say here in the US as a whole, because here in the US we have multiple cultural systems and religious systems and social systems, and it's varied. Just like in, say, India, there's a caste system, and so if you are in one caste or another, you often are restricted to that caste, and it's hard for you to go beyond it. And there's a lot of Bollywood movies about it. You know, the poor going, being found and discovered by someone in the rich and going upward, kind of like Pretty Woman, if you will. That is one of our social norms here in the U.S. You know, someone on the streets being found by someone who's wealthy and being, lifted up and pulled higher. You know, that's kind of something that's a mythos or a dream, if you will, by some and by many, if you will. And then in other cultures, it's for instance in the very highly restrictive and more conservative Islamic nations, the full restrictive hijab gear worn by the women is very restrictive. You know, you can't see any of her skin, not even her eyes. She's completely veiled, even wearing gloves, because no other man can see that outside of her own husband, kind of a situation. It's very, very restrictive. It's just, we don't necessarily, I'm saying we as a group, and it's very much a broad statement, right? Often groups of people don't understand other religions, other social classes, and other social norms. And so when one nation goes to another nation and says, hey, you can't do that, that's wrong. If you don't fully understand the way that nation operates, or the way that culture operates and has for millennia, then you're judging it through the filter of your own lens. And I'm not saying that some of the things that, say, Iran has been doing is correct. I'm just saying that perhaps we are judging them incorrectly, or through the wrong lens, or with the wrong rule book. All right. Now, that being said, yes, the whole nuclear armament and nuclear buildup and all that stuff, that whole political playout is fraught with problems and disasters and chaos and so much trouble. Oh, yes. And yes, there was wrong being done and things not being taken care of 100%. And there's so much there. And it is not just one political party here in the US who has walked that particular line and screwed up. It has been multiples, absolutely multiples. And here I was going to start I wanted this, I was going one direction with my conversation today, and it's gone completely sideways, but that's okay. Because I was going to do something else, but that's okay. So we'll just see. Anyways, so with all of that, yes, there's a certain group of Iranians that are absolutely frustrated with the way life has been in Iran and the way things have been. And I get it. And as a result, they are totally stoked and excited and thrilled that the U.S. and many of the U.S. allies have been trying to change things over there. And Israel has been over there doing things also. Now, Israel has a very different agenda than the U.S. has, because Israel and Iran, not only do they have a difference politically, but they have a significant difference religiously. And I don't know that many of the average American truly understands how significant that religious difference truly is. If you haven't taken a world religion class of any kind, I highly recommend it, because if you don't understand, then you just don't understand. And if your world history class doesn't have any section on religion and how it impacts politics, then you also don't understand. And that's a lot of the problems with a lot of today's college classes and even high school classes, is they're not including those elements because it's not politically correct here in the US. And it's doing it's harming our kids and our adults, because they don't get it. They don't understand. And that lack of understanding is leading to significantly uneducated individuals in our populace. Significantly bad. Very, very bad. Anyways, so moving on. Because of those significant political disparities, there's many non-Israeli folks in the Middle East, and and they attacked and were was part of the 12-day war, 7-day war. It's been a while. It was like in the 50s, I think it was, when they attacked the Jewish settlements, and that's when the nation of Israel kind of came about, and that's when the Palestinians were settled on the West Bank, and all of that happened. And we've been hearing about the Palestinians shooting rockets at Israel ever since, and everybody's been like, who's been supplying the Palestinians with rockets and such ever since. And then there's 9/11, and everything's been escalating and escalating and escalating. Yes, all of these things are connected, because a lot of it is not just political unrest, it is also religious unrest, because there is so many controversial things and in the are disparate things that are in the religious foundations of Islam and Judaism that are not necessarily, think of they're parallel religions, if you will. And as parallel religions, the only time they meet is when they cross swords. And as such, um, the only time they yes, they cross swords. And so there's not going to be very long-term peace times when they are at odds with one another. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And so we're over there now because we agreed to be allies with Israel, and Israel was poking the bear, and now everything is just kind of blowing up. And I don't know, how long are we going to be over there? It's hard to say. Our current president is making the choices that he is, and he currently has the backing of many. Also does not have the backing of many, so we'll see how that goes. We have midterm elections rapidly approaching, and we'll see how that balance plays out. Politics in the U.S. is always kind of an adventure. Always. And in a way, I guess my ultimate target today was talking about relationships and patterns and chaos. So I guess in many ways, this does actually lead to the chaos, because right now we are experiencing a lot of chaos in the world. We really are. Gas prices are up. People are having a hard time getting from point A to point B because of gas prices. Gas prices being up means grocery prices are being up. So, hey, we're having some food complications, right? Food deserts are feeling it, without a doubt. And by golly, there are ways to mitigate that, but none of them are simple. None of them are short-term solutions or immediate solutions. A lot of them involve work, people. And wow, there's a lot of folks out there right now who just don't seem to like to do the work, which I just don't understand. So, which actually kind of leads me to why I wanted to do this particular show today. So there's some remodeling projects that I would like to have accomplished here, and also one of my boys, he is in the midst of doing a remodeling project in his own home. He's got a kitchen project, and there's all these things, right? Remodeling. So there's a gentleman I follow that's built by Becker. I'm actually stating it out loud, built by Becker. And he's actually pretty awesome. He's got some great ideas, and he talks about, some, he's a licensed contractor, and he talks about, contracting ideas and things you should do, things that are in fashion or not in fashion, things, do's and don'ts, and all sorts of things. And every so often he'll have this little short where it's like, okay, why did this person do this? That's kind of crazy. And occasionally he'll have a video like, that's a great idea. I like it. But he'll also comment on like surfaces that are good, surfaces that aren't, good countertops versus bad countertops. He's rated them. I just watched that one. I thought that was pretty cool. But one of them, or the one I watched this morning over while I was drinking coffee, was a kitchen remodel. Like, why do kitchen remodels go wrong? Because they do. And I know they do. I've seen some really horrible kitchen remodels because, I don't always watch funny cat videos. Sometimes I'll watch bad kitchen remodels, okay, on YouTube. And one of the things that a lot of folks do when they go have a kitchen remodel, and I'm going somewhere with this, even though it's like a 180 from where I just was, is that they will pick out new surfaces, like new countertops, new paints, new cabinetry, everything, but they won't change the design layout of their kitchen. So they want everything new in their kitchen because the old kitchen was horrible and it didn't work for them. But they won't change the layout, right? So all of the things that didn't work was in the layout. But they assume that because they have a new kitchen coming with new surfaces and new cabinets and new colors and new flooring with the same layout, everything's going to be magically fixed. But that's not the way it is. If you don't change the layout of the kitchen, you're not going to have any changes in the way the kitchen functions. So if you have a kitchen where every time you open the dishwasher, it runs into the stove, and you remodel the kitchen and you don't change where they sit, you're still going to have that problem, right? Or maybe you can't open the pantry anytime the silverware drawer is open. I don't know. Okay, and you don't change the layout, it's not going to change. It doesn't matter what color the pantry door is. It could be green, it could be red, it could be glass, and it's still not going to work. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to redesign things and improve the layout, right? You have to change something. Well, to me, that's kind of what we need to do overall. So when it comes to relationships, for instance, so if you've been in like a bad relationship and you're done with it and you've left that person and you're like, whew, that was so hard and I was so miserable and I can't believe how rough that was. I'm done. I'm glad I left that person. And you're ready to start dating again. What are you going to do to keep from dating the same kind of person? Are you going to go to the same place that you met your previous person? I sure hope not, because you're probably going to meet the same kind of person. Actually, unless you change something about you and the way you approach relationships, nothing's going to change. Right? So just like if the way our national leaders and leaderships approach problems and situations in the world doesn't change, we're going to keep having the same damn problems, right? So it's all related. It really is. So, and we're not supposed to have this much chaos in the world. We really, really aren't. It's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns. It just isn't. But it's also not supposed to be this hard, right? So, like the stuff that happened between the Ukraine and Russia, why is it still going on, right? There's a lot of information and misinformation about the situation between Ukraine and Russia. And if you get down to it, it is really truly a territory squabble between Ukraine and Russia. It's a water issue, a water rights issue. And it's also a people protection issue. So, I mean, that's where it is. One nation trying to protect their own people, and also their own water rights from another nation. Now, I have to say, many other nations would respond very similarly to the way Russia did against Ukraine. And I can't help but think that if, say, Canada and the US were to fight about something in a way similar to Russia and Ukraine, that Russia would be like, WTF is going on here? And there'd be so many countries out there wanting to stand up and hopefully standing up to us and saying, no, this isn't the way it works. And no, you need to do something different. So, yeah. And I think we really need to think about that and pay attention to it a little bit, because yeah, there is a lot out there, because we have a tendency to, especially here in the US, to just assume that anything that Russia does is bad, is wrong, because Russia's been the bad guy for so long, right? Now, I'm not saying that Putin has been doing all the right things, because maybe not. But also, I don't know that Ukraine is doing the right things either. And honestly, I don't know that I would have recommended getting in this mess because I don't know that we belong in it with that one. Now the mess between here in Iran, that one's a little harder, very much harder. I know we've spent a lot of money over between Russia and Ukraine, and now we've spent a lot of money in with Iran, and it's all frustrating, right? And if we were to stop and look back and just count up the trillions with a T, guys, with a T, trillions of dollars that we have spent as a nation over the decades fighting in other people's wars that we really had no business being in, would we have the national debt that we have right now? Probably not. Probably not. I do know that as much as I would like to go visiting overseas and explore some places, just because I would love to go see the architecture of some places and experience some stuff. I mean, shoot, I'm in my 50s, guys. I'm not getting any older or younger. I am getting older, thanks. But I'm not getting any younger, and I would love to see those places, right? But right now, the way people from the US are treated out in the world, it's not very good. And I just don't really know that I want to go out and do the thing. Not right now. And not with all the stuff going on. And then with the way US politics is going, I don't know that I really want to leave my hobbit hole that I have here in the northern end of Idaho, because I feel kind of secure here. I mean, I've lived in other places in the US and I still feel pretty secure here, all things considered, because there's just a lot of drama and chaos going on around in the world, even here in the US, which, holy cow, you guys. What's up with people letting their teenagers run amok in downtown Chicago or downtown DC? I get it, kids are bored and they need something to do, but really? Is that what you're going to do? Or the way people are acting at spring break? Really? That's how we behave? That's how we represent ourselves to the world? Oh boy, howdy. No thanks. Kind of ruin it for the rest of us, those of us who don't act like that and do want to go to places, but why would we want to go somewhere where people are going to see us as like that? You know, I don't. I don't want to have to deal with that kind of crap. I don't want anybody to know me as that kind of person. Nope. Not my jam at all. Mm-mm. So when it comes to the chaos in our world, do we have to be chaotic? No, we sure don't. Mm-mm. You know, healthy relationships, no matter who they are with. It doesn't matter if they're with our significant other, with our kids, with our parents, religious leaders, political leaders, national leaders, international leaders. Doesn't matter who they are with. Sure, they require some effort. They require some compromise, yeah. But you know what? They shouldn't be constantly draining, painful, difficult, any of those things. So if you don't like your political leaders, for instance, why do you keep voting them in? Now, for those of you who don't necessarily enjoy politics, I get it. But if you don't get out and talk about your political views or defend your political views, or want to say, hey, this is what I stand for and this is where I'm standing, uh, I don't know. Um, Now, there are challenges here in the US with our politics. I get it. We're having some vote counting issues, apparently, which is ridiculous. We're supposed to be this icon in Republican democracy. Remember that it's a Republican democracy, not just a democracy, Republican democracy. We are a republic first. Um, so, with that, there should be a lot of stability, right? It shouldn't be this clustering upset that we seem to deal with on a regular, which is kind of crazy. So if it's this hard, and if our politics is causing this much chaos and drama and strife, I mean, our family stopped doing. My family, my house, stopped hosting family dinners a while back, like 2 decades ago, because of the drama and chaos from politics. It's like people couldn't leave their political viewpoints at the door, and it was causing physical violence in my home. And it's like, no, can't do that. It's ridiculous. I get it. Have a different opinion, but dude. Um, so when it comes to that kind of thing, you are able to put up your own walls and make people understand they don't have the right to try to control you or dominate you or whatever when it comes to your political views, because that kind of behavior is toxic. So I know that there are people that I just don't talk to anymore or follow on Facebook or Insta or whatever. TikTok, yeah, that too, Facebook, all of the things, because of their political viewpoints are just so in your face. It's like, if you can't have a conversation with me, then no, we can't talk, because this is about politics. If you can't stop talking about politics, we're done. Because this isn't I didn't come here for a political conversation. I was here to talk about, growing better potatoes, or, yes, in Idaho, or my garden is having problems, or, hey, I have meat rabbits for sale, and did you want to buy one? That's what I'm talking about, because you mentioned you needed some rabbits, and that's why we're here, not for that. So, keep your conversations on point, man. If you can't do that, then you know what? It's maybe time to separate that conversation. That's the intentional goals, if you will, of a conversation. You got to keep it direct, keep it where it belongs. And if you can't, then you need to learn it. You got to be strong enough to manage your conversations, because it's hard otherwise. It just is. And it's hard to exist. It's hard to go out in public. It's hard to do the things. It's hard to go to work if you can't manage the way those external pressures, and stresses impact you. You have a right to say, hey, I don't want that around me. I don't want to deal with that today. Or because if it's too hard, or if the things that people are talking about around you causes too much stress and chaos, you have a right, especially in the workplace, to say, no, no fun zone, or no fun, no drama zone. And go to your HR department and talk to them about it. Yeah, it's a real thing. And if it doesn't get resolved there, go to the labor department and make a complaint against the company. It is hard, but there are other jobs out there, because that much stress causes too much cortisol, and too much cortisol will kill you. There are studies on that one. So, if your job causes you that much drama, chaos, blood pressure, etc., it's time to find something else. Don't stay in an unhappy job. It's just not worth it. Just like unhappy relationship. If you don't know if it's an unhappy relationship, weigh out the pros and cons. Make a list. And if the pros are weigh out the cons, okay, cool. Evaluate it, make sure everything's got the right weight. Awesome. Otherwise, if the cons outweigh the pros, it's time to move on and do something else. And don't be held as an emotional hostage or financial hostage. And if you think you are being abused in that situation, talk to. There are so many resources in your local community that will help you. You can also email me, say, hey, I'm looking for therapy, and I'll help you out. It's wildpaisley@gmail.com. It is rolling at the bottom of the screen, top of the screen, in the screen. It is, I promise. Yep, there it is. And it just is. But going back to the political side of it, if you're not happy with the way your local politics are, you have to act within your your community to work with it. I'm not saying overthrow your local government. I'm saying you have to do the work, period. You're not happy with your sheriff because you think he's a good old boy or she's a good old girl or whatever, and it needs to be a new sheriff in town, and then you have to go out and vote and do the things. You have to. You don't like the commissioners in this county or your district, or if you're worried about the judges, you have to do the work and go out and do the things to do the work. Because change doesn't happen if you don't make the effort. All right? Just like nothing will get done outside of this room as far as cleaning the house or making dinner if I don't end my show at some point and go do it. That's all there is to it. We all have responsibilities to life. If we want to be in this world and have this life and do the things and strive for the goals that we set ourselves, then we have a responsibility to work towards those goals. So if I wanted to start a business, for instance, it is up to me to do the work to start the business, to find the funding, to set up the bylaws, to organize it, to find a name, get the tax number or whatever, find an accountant, all of the things so that I am a successful business person. It is up to me to do all the work. I can't just assume that somebody else will do it for me. Just like would I love to have a viral video that goes out and suddenly I have 1 million viewers and I am popular all over the place? And sure, that'd be kind of great. I don't know. Success like that can go both ways. It's a double-edged sword without a doubt. But would it be kind of cool? It would be kind of cool to experience that for once and see what the other side is like on the high viewership level. Sure. But at the same time, I'm okay being me, doing my own thing. And growing at my own rate. So, and for those of you who are listening, likes, thumbs ups, all of those things are fantastic. Hit the subscribes, the bells, and all the whistles. I love that. And thank you. So I love interaction. So if you are watching, a hello is always welcome. Or send me the email at wildpaisley@gmail.com. So, but all of it, it is important to remember that you have to do the work. Change doesn't happen by accident. Very rarely, I'm not going to say never, I'm going to say very rarely, does money fall out of the sky and land at your feet so that you can invest or go in a business or buy the dream house that you want or whatever. Very rarely does just the thing happen that you are suddenly able to do whatever it was that you wanted to do. Generally there's a side effect that happened so that you could do that. Pro athletes become pro athletes because they did the work. They ran the laps, they shot the hoops, they ran for the touchdown, they did all of the things. It didn't just happen by accident. They had to do the work. Day after day after day. So, if you want a different relationship Because say you did break up with someone and you're ready for that new relationship, ask yourself, am I ready? Am I really ready? Because if you haven't figured out how to, for instance, like yourself, let alone love yourself, are you sure you're ready to have somebody else love you? Because if you're not, and if you're not there yet, if you're not ready to accept yourself as you are, you're going to have a very hard time allowing somebody else to accept you as you are. And so you will always search for people who put you down and frame you in that position where they treat you the way you think you should be treated. And who wants that? So, yeah, change happens. It happens every doggone day, every moment. But for the change to stick, you have to do the work. Do miracles happen? Sure. But it's because someone is ready to receive it and they've done the work to receive it. So, you've got the energy. Do you put it out there? You're doing the thing? Yep, sure. You betcha. But that means you're doing the work to accept it, because things just don't happen. So, like all the political stuff I was talking about at the very beginning of the show, and the Artemis too. Think about it. All of those folks dealing with the space flight, and well, shoot, even the astronauts. They didn't become astronauts by accident. They weren't just some farmer pulled out of a back field. Those folks were highly educated. They've been part of the space program for a while. They've got degrees. They've done things. They've gone places. They've experienced some stuff in order to get where they're at. And everybody working within the NASA program, yeah, they've had to go through some education to get there and to do some things because, yeah, they didn't end up there by accident. They were there intentionally. Each and every single person involved in that program were hired intentionally. They're working there intentionally, and they're trying to achieve their goals intentionally. And if you're going to live intentionally, that means you're going to have to work at it. It doesn't happen by accident. So if you don't like the local political situation, you have to look at it with intent and vote intentionally. Understand the situation within the different things that are being voted for. So, like here locally, we have a school levy coming up because the way we fund our education is by levies, which is an increase of taxes on our properties, which as a homeowner, I, on the one hand, kind of roll my eyes at, but on the other hand, I'm a big believer in education. I just want to make sure that my education dollars are spent appropriately. So it's complicated. I just want to make sure they're audited and they're doing the right job, which just for the most part, I think they are. So yeah, that's how we spend our tax dollars. So the levy is available for anybody to read on the school district website, and yeah, you got to read it though. Read it so you know what's being voted for. Don't just assume. Don't read the Cliff's Notes. Just like when our political leaders are voting for something, they should be reading the entirety of it, and it should be written so the average person can understand it. For crying out loud, it shouldn't all be written in legal jargon because, for crying out loud, most of us don't read legalese. It's not a language that we're familiar with. So, but anyways, I'm running. Probably about 45 minutes, I think. So, and apparently I have to go pick up a child. Grandkids, right? Anyways, I think I've said that multiple times. Let's see, coming up in April, I know the Bitcoin conference is coming up for those of you who are going. That's fantastic. I don't know that I'm going to make that one as much as I would like to. It's a busy month. It seems like the months just keep getting busier. I'm supposed to be retired, for crying out loud. And I'm busier than I ever was before. And I don't have a lot of things on my plate. There's just a lot of things. So if I don't see you there, I will be here. I will try to be online a little bit more often. Last month was really rough between, I had my carpal tunnel surgery, which took a little bit out of me, and then some other health things and family things, and it never fails. There's a lot of ands, which is not being intentional. It is just the way of life, unfortunately. So I need to be more intentional about being on air more often. That being said, I have some rabbits to go check and some pieces to go pick up. So we have a rabbit pen that needs some fixing so that the rabbits can get a little bit bigger before they go to freezer camp. And that is me being intentional. So, yes, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email. It's wildpaisley@gmail.com. I do appreciate hearing from you guys. And it's pretty awesome when I hear somebody with a shout out or have a question about something. But remember, if you don't live intentionally or make the conscious change, you don't change your situation. It doesn't just, life doesn't happen by accident. You have to plan what's going to happen, Very rarely does the average person just get the lucky lotto and become a millionaire and live happily ever after. Because even most of those folks that do get the lucky lotto don't live happily ever after. They live right into jail or early death because they couldn't handle it. So you don't want that. You want to live intentionally, make your conscious choices, do the work, right? And it has to be worthwhile work. It can't be just, yeah, I'm working on it. If you're actually going to do the therapy, do the therapy. If you're going to spend the time going to the therapist, do the work. And remember, there are normal conflicts. Conflict can be good because conflict can be a growth opportunity, but there's also toxic conflict, and that is not good. And toxic conflict is, that's not good for anybody. So, and if it does become too hard to do any of the things, reach out for help. Don't assume you have to do it all on your own, because you don't. There are people around you that will help you. There are probably more people than you realize out there that'll be there to help lift you up if you are in a situation that you need assistance. Most of us have a really awesome tribe around us, and we don't even realize just how awesome it is. Or sometimes we realize, but it's a fear to let anybody know just how bad it really is. But they probably already know because they know us. I mean, seriously, they do. So, that being said, I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. I can't wait to see what the rest of this Artemis 2 flight is going to show up with. I am looking forward to seeing what happens. It'll be interesting. And stay tuned. I'll be on again. I promise I'll be on again. One of these days, I'll try to get Mini Me on here again too, because never know. She has some crazy, wild insights. Actually, she does. She's pretty good about it. So, thank you for joining. I will see you next time. So, merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again. And I hope you guys have just a great, great day. Oops. And I hit the wrong button, of course, because why not? I'm just really good at it.